Hey, welcome to Kate Crafts. I'm Kate. Today I would like to share with you a card that I made with some new to me products from Your Next Stamp. Let's get started. So, starting off, here are some of the products that I will be using. This is the Halloween Pumpkin Stamp and Die Set. This is the Wonky Door Die Set. And this is the Cobblestone Bold Print by Hero Arts. So to start, I am going to take the foam out of my stamping positioner, and I'm going to ink up this red rubber stamp quite a few times, but I don't show you quite a few times. So once I'm done that, I will take my mini Misty and load up the little pumpkin stamps that I have from the Halloween pumpkin stamp set and stamp those out a couple of times. And then, of course, I will die cut them. I like to die cut before I color, just in case I mess up the die cut and I put all that work into nothing kind of thing. So I like to die cut my images first before I cut them out. That way, if I don't like the cut, then I don't have to color. So once I'm done that, I'll cut out the other set and I will move on to coloring. Now, I won't show you the whole thing because this took up quite a few minutes to do. I threw on a movie and ended up watching almost a half a movie while I did this and got interrupted quite a few times and made a cup of coffee, got a snack. It was quite tedious, but it paid off in the end. So I've just got this rectangle die from another set. I can't remember which, but there's no stitcher in it or anything. So next I'm just kind of measuring up where I want the wonky door to go with one of the pumpkins. And I will cut that out, and I will also cut out the door in gray. So that way I can take some of my warm gray tone markers and give it a little bit of interest. And that's what you see me doing here. So I think this was like a W9 or W7, and now I'm taking the W5 and blending that out. And then I'll go in with a W3. I mean, it doesn't do a whole lot, but it does darken up the gray, and I like the gray undertone for these markers. So I'm just going to do the same for the door, kind of give myself an idea, and then kind of throw the idea out the window, and just go all willy-nilly with the markers. Again, these are the same markers that I used for the little panels, and then I'll bring in a scrap of paper so I don't go over the lines, and I'll use the W9 marker to create the door frame, I guess you could call it. And I really wasn't sure what I was doing with this. I just know I had to create something with these dies together and these stamps together. So I ended up walking away from this card a couple of times and even talked to a non-crafty friend of mine about it, and all she told me was, I have faith in you, I know you'll see it through, and it'll be amazing. Whether or not it's amazing, that'll be for you to decide in the end. So here I'm just taking the same scrap of paper that I had cut out the door initially on, and I'm going to glue this down. Now I probably could have glued it down on a thinner piece of paper, but it is what it is, and here I'm just going to use my utility knife, or my little X-Acto blade, or whatever you want to call it, my craft knife, and I'm going to go into those open lines that the cut lines that the die gave so the door will open, and I'll try to be careful and not to go overboard, and then I'll use my scissors to actually cut out the door itself. And here's where I probably could have put more thought into it, but at this point it was just I didn't know what I was doing, and I probably could have colored behind the door first before I laid down the panel onto my base panel here. So I'm just lining everything up and mashing it down, and then I get the door ready to go, and I'm just using this 1/8 of an inch Scor tape to get it done. And I don't know, I mean, I really probably could have sat down and thought about this more, but I was in the mood. I was in the mood to create. I had already created another card before this and realized that I kind of messed up the footage, and it was like, well, you know what, I'm going to take a different direction, and I'm going to create this card. And I spent quite a few hours on it. Like, I think I recorded for 3 hours, but in theory it actually In reality, I should say, it actually took me like 5 hours to complete because I was just so stumped. But anyway, this is where I could have drawn the little, I don't know, Twilight Zone circles in the spiral, the creepy spiral. I could have drawn that in before instead of having to mask everything off with some low-tack tape. But, you know, it is what it is. I was kind of just not planning anything out. I was just kind of saying, oh, will this work? Let's find out. Yep, it works. Nope, it doesn't. Oh, shoot. So, I don't know. I thought swirly, squiggly line, or whatever you want to call this. Spiral. Thank you. Spiral. Inside of the door kind of made it for, like, one of those crazy portals that, you know, you could walk through and maybe go to another dimension. Like, you know, in a card or something. I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about Twilight Zone because I had posted on Instagram recently a Twilight Zone inspired card that I actually was quite pleased with, but had sadly lost the footage for it. So it was a whole lot of stamp masking and a whole lot of watching Twilight Zone in a particular episode and getting it just right. And it kind of sparked a lot of memories for a lot of people, which I was quite happy about. I liked watching the Twilight Zone when I was a little kid with my dad, and, you know, like the Addams Family or the Monsters. That was something, you know, we sometimes did when we wanted to be lazy on a Saturday when I was a little kid. So, you know, Twilight Zone and the old black and white TV programs remind me of my dad, because he used to watch that kind of stuff when he was a kid. So I'm just taking a Cricut pen here. It's kind of glittery. I thought I'd go over it. And I end up not liking it later, but that's not yet. If you want to skip through this coloring, you're more than welcome to. I'll try to remember to leave the timestamps in the description box below because this video runs almost 20 minutes, so I understand if you want to skip the coloring, but I am going through my darkest to lightest using the YR07, the YR68, and the YR04, which I thought was kind of a neat combination. I need more YR markers. I've seen a couple used on different cards from other creators where they're into like the Y20s and it's more like a reddish, brownish, brassy color. Not quite like the E17 markers. It's just different. So I need to put those on my Christmas list, you know, to expand my markers because, you know, why not? Christmas is around the corner and my birthday, so art supplies. Yeah, that'll make me happy. Anyway, I'm just filling in the rest of this with my light color, and once I am done with that, I will kind of clean up any little pieces that I have here with the blender marker. It's the 0 marker. And once that's done, I will put on little faces to each of these guys. I'll show you 2 right here, and then I'll move on so you don't have to spend more time than you ought to, but I don't know, I thought the faces on these little pumpkins were just too darling. So here I said I wasn't too pleased with the glitter that I used, so I grabbed my Wink of Stella, and I just kind of went over the glitter I'd already put. And you can kind of see me dipping it off to the side. I squirted a little bit too much out, and I didn't want to drip all over my project, so I just let it dry out as I'm painting with it, and then pick up the color. And once that's kind of dry-ish, I'm taking some foam tape here to create the floor. And I'm just going to line that up on a piece of black cardstock. I believe this was 65 pounds. It's a Recollection brand anyway. And I'm going to cut that strip of foam tape that I've mounted the black paper onto the back. And then I'll take a black Sharpie marker to go around the edges to make it look like it was actual, you know, floor and you don't see the white. I don't have any black foam tape to use, so yeah, this will do. So long as I just remember if I cut anything to go back over it again. So once I'm happy with the color of that around the edges, I'll line this up to the bottom of the door, into the corner of the card, and just press that down, and I have my floor. So now all there is left to do here is to put the pumpkins down. I think, anyway. So I'm just adding some double-sided adhesive, my Easy Runner tape, and a little bit of Tombow mono glue to make sure that these guys stay down. And I'll do these guys kind of like in the background, and then the two smaller pumpkins I will load up with some foam tape and some glue and have them sit kind of in front of these two pumpkins, and then the other one I'll throw off to the side of the door. So I thought I had some thinner foam tape, but it turns out it wasn't as thin. I would have liked a little bit thinner, but it is what it is. This kind of almost gives it a little bit more dimension. So I'll do the same for this pumpkin and put it off to the side. Actually, I'll put some foam tape on the back of that. That's what I'll do. And then I'll put some more glue, and then we'll put that down. So once I'm happy with that placement, I will again go in with, well, not again, but I will go in with my Sakura jelly roll. I think this was like either an 8 or a 10, and I'll just add some dots and dashes to make them a little bit more cuter. Because this card is a little spooky, but I also kind of wanted to soften the spookiness with a little bit of cuteness. Kind of like a contrast. It's kind of monochromatic, but with pops of orange, and I end up adding a little bit more than I thought I would. Like, I thought I was going to put the sentiment up top there, and thought better of it, and thought, you know what, I got these neat holiday lights, and I like putting up lights for Halloween, like purple lights, so I thought, you know what, maybe I'll do some purple and orange lights and see how I like that. So after I've cut 2 strands of lights out, and this is just 100-pound cardstock, Recollection, I believe. I like coloring on it. It's not so bad. It's fairly smooth. I mean, it's comparable to Strathmore Bristol Smooth, which is like really nice. I like coloring on it, but I didn't feel like digging it out, and I had a bunch of scraps of the 110-pound paper. So all I'm doing here is just going in with some markers, alcohol markers, Copic markers, whatever markers you have will work, and coloring in my little lights just to make them festive. And I'll make sure to leave all the Copic colored markers, or the ones that I used in this video, down in the description box, as always. Again, with this jelly roll pen to give it a little bit of a shine. And then I think I will take it one step further, and I will add in a little bit of black. So the strings aren't white, they're going to be black. And I find that I had to pick these guys up and really get in there with my black marker, because this was white paper, and I mean, I could have cut out the light bulbs individually and pasted them on and cut this out of black cardstock, but it's what I had. So I'm just going to play around with the placement of these guys. And once I'm happy with how I want them, I will glue them all on and then trim them all down. So I'm just taking my little tiny baby squidgy bottle of glue that I've loaded up with some Tombow mono glue and painstakingly gluing every little aspect of these Christmas lights and doing a little bit of touch up. So I'll take my stamp block and kind of push them down so I can get them evenly down, and then I'll trim off the back. And then I'll do the same for the other side. So now I don't want to use the entire string of lights, so I'll just take my scissors and snip off that orange bit and kind of line them up the best that I can, that I think that works. So once I'm done that, I will again take my glue and add some glue to the back, and then I'll glue those eyes on top. Now I don't use the whole string, so I end up cutting off what I don't want from the edges of the card. You'll see here in a second. And I end up taking the little bit that I cut off and adding it to the door just because I could. And I thought that kind of tied in nicely. If you push the door closed and you see the little string of lights, and I don't know, I really like this little string of lights. I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of them, especially for Christmas. But even like festive, like birthday cards and stuff like that, I think these would be great. So to take it one step further, well, using my Sakura Stardust pen, because the lights needed a little bit of shimmery, sparkly goodness. And that's what I did. And now I am taking my Wink of Stella black gold shimmer pen thing, and I'm going to go along the bottom. When this dries, it'll give it a little bit of a gold sheen to kind of tie in with a bit of the sparkle. Whether or not I needed this bit, I don't know. I ended up getting it, I did end up getting it along some of the pumpkins on the bottom there, and I ended up having to redo the pumpkins, but I took that aspect out because this video was already long. And here I'm just taking my, I believe it was my W3 marker, and going over this cardstock just so I can get that gray tone, and I will cut that out with my very sharp Cricut scissors because I don't have banner dies and I gotta create my own, and sometimes it's a hit or miss for me to cut the little flags on the end, and sometimes I actually get it spot on. I mean, this was my second attempt. I took out the first attempt because it was just terrible. So I thought I'd spare you with that. So I put a little bit of glue on the back, or a little double-sided tape and some glue on the back, and then I'll add that to the front of my card. And just to go around the edges a little bit more with my black marker, this is my black Copic marker. I just want to kind of tie in that edging there and darken it up so there's not so much white. And this almost gives it just like a ghosting of a border around the edge, which I kind of like. And I'll touch up those few little cobblestones in the background. And then I'll add a little bit more of my Stardust. No, yeah, Stella, sorry. And I can't forget the doorknob. I almost forgot the doorknob, and I thought, you know what? Those lights, though you can't really see them, they're purple. So I took the same purple marker that I used on the string of lights, and I'm going to use that with the door. I used a dark purple and a light purple, and this has got two, I guess, doorknobs in it. And I am kind of layering the dark underneath the light, and then I will put that on top of my door, as you can see here. A little dab of glue, and I've taken my piece here, and I'll just put that on. I put like a little black mark to kind of show dimension, and here you have it. My finished card. Spooky. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below if you think this is creepy and spooky, altogether ooky, or maybe you just think it's cute. So if you've enjoyed today's content or found it helpful, please give this video a like. I also welcome you to subscribe, as I post weekly. Here's another video I think you might enjoy. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Take care.